I was born in Indiana, grew up there, Illinois and Connecticut. First and only member of my family to graduate from college, went to George Washington University, then went off to law school at Harvard. Decided I didn't want to practice law. I decided I was going to go be an entrepreneur. Took my life savings, $5,000, invested it in a little energy startup company. Went to work for that company. In 6 weeks, I helped that company go totally bankrupt. Then went into real estate and failed at that after 6 months. So I think at the ripe old age of about 26, I was living out of my car, sleeping on my friends' couches. My student loans were coming due, but I was lucky enough to kind of get a third shot. A buddy of mine had invested in some of the earliest cellular licensing round, and it sounded to me like a good idea, and I went around and got a chance to make a presentation, particularly to a guy named David Chase up in Hartford, Connecticut. Came in and told him about this new opportunity in the wireless area called cellular telephones, and after about a 30-minute pitch, he committed. This was 1982, and the FCC had said one license in each market would go to an existing telephone company. The other license would go to some startup. And the FCC decided after the second and third round of applications that because it was so complicated to have a comparative hearing process, they'd just go ahead and have a lottery. It was a mass meeting where everyone decided that we'd throw in their interest together and then they would, in effect, create trading chits. I became kind of the cellular broker for those license chips. It was the wild, wild west in the 80s. It was an area where there was a whole industry being created real time, but the real operations of what a cell phone company would look like, nobody really knew. And a friend of mine, Morgan O'Brien, we came up with the idea of the SMRS licenses, putting them all together. They were in spectrum right next door to the cellular spectrum. We didn't have much money, and we convinced a number of these operators to throw their lots in together. And we were literally down to our last pitch. A fellow who I'd known, a small investment banker named Peter Reinheimer, on our last meeting after months and months of trying with the larger firm said, you know, Morgan, this looks like a good idea. He thought he could raise us some capital, and we were off to the races. So this was Nextel. Then myself and 4 other guys, we'd amassed enough individual personal capital that we created Columbia Capital that became a venture fund that was focused on the wireless industry. We had a great success run. We invested in a number of switching companies that a number we sold to Ericsson. We aggregated and did other spectrum plays in smaller markets. We did a company that went ahead and established the towers and other kind of nitty-gritty work of how you get a cell phone company or wireless company up and operating. My contribution might have been seeing that there was an enormous potential in this field. As governor, what I worked on a lot was deployment of broadband. When I moved to the Senate, that's where I've continued to focus my efforts. I serve on the Commerce Committee, which has jurisdiction over the FCC. So whether it's amending the agriculture bill to try to redeploy some of the monies we spend for broadband deployment to make sure they're getting to unserved areas, to continuing to push the FCC to get more spectrum out. I think that continues to be a challenge. You know, I'm very lucky. I'm married, got 3 great daughters. You know, it's kind of hard with a family growing up with somebody in public life. So I know my family sacrificed a lot for me to be able to carry out what I always wanted to do, which was be in the public arena. I used to play basketball. My knees have kind of given up on me on that. I like to road bike. I like a good meal. I like a good glass of wine. And I've got a lot of great friends all across the country who I get a chance to try to do that with. This is an industry that I'm proud to have been part of. If I was starting again, I would think about all the things that we can use these devices in terms of improving people's quality of life, using technology in education. A lot of it's happening. I still don't think we've kind of found the secret sauce yet, so we've got to keep pushing, but I have no doubt that at some point this will become an even more valuable tool than it is today.